Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Ni hao, hesitate, Akwaba, welcoming, what up though? This is weekly Holy Scriptures recorded recitation. The date today is 724.8.17, semicolon 72, semicolon 1, new 7. And this week is a double portion. We are returning into the schedule amidst some adjustments, and we're back into the schedule. This is double portion week, and this recording is of the second portion for this week. The portion numero dos, deuxième portion for this week, which is portion numero 30, Kedoshim. That includes within the Torah, Kedoshim, which is Vaikra 19 a 27. Within the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Bhakti Yogehe, which is numero 12. Within the Digha Nikaya, it is the Maha Govinda Sutta, numero 19. Within the Gospels, it is Luke 15 a 16. And within the Quran, it is Surah Yasin, which is numero 36. And within the Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 13 a 18. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, vaheguru sanam. Dao kudao fehung dao. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Kyrie eleison. Sivumastu salvajigatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fekako. Akwaba upendo na amani. Wamejekam. Shishe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakantokam. Talk adokashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. Ata jamya yata afanami. Aho. Om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Abha. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, vaheguru sanam. Dao kudao fehung dao. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher ketzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu sok b'devar Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivumastu salvajigatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabonom. Fekako. Akwaba upendo na amani. Wamejeka. Sheshe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakantanka. Talk adokashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go remember God. Ata jamya yata afanami. Aho. Om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Torah, Kedoshim, Vaikra 19 a 27. And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the entire congregation of the children of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Every man shall fear his more and his far, and you shall observe my Shabbatot. I am the Lord your God. You shall not turn to the worthless idols, nor shall you make molten deities for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you slaughter a peace offering to the Lord, you shall slaughter it for your acceptance. It may be eaten on the day you slaughter it, and on the next day, but anything left over until the third day shall be burned in fire. And if it would be eaten on the third day, it is abominable. It shall not be accepted. And whoever eats it shall bear his sin, because he has profaned what is holy to the Lord, and that person shall be cut off from his people. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not fully reap the corner of your field, nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you collect the fallen individual grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am the Lord your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deny falsely. You shall not lie, one man to his fellow. You shall not swear falsely by my name, thereby profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not oppress your fellow. You shall not rob. The hired worker's wage shall not remain with you overnight until my time. You shall not curse a deaf person. You shall not place a stumbling block before a blind person, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. You shall commit no injustice in judgment. You shall not favor a poor person or respect a great man. You shall judge with your fellow with righteousness. You shall not go around as a gossip monger amidst your people. You shall not stand by the shedding of your fellow's blood. I am the Lord. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your fellow, but you shall not bear a sin on his account. You shall neither take revenge from nor bear a grudge against the members of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You shall observe my statutes. You shall not crossbreed your livestock with different species. You shall not sow your field with a mixture of seeds, and a garment which has a mixture of shatnets shall not come upon you. If a man lies carnally with a woman, and she is a handmaid designated for a man, and she had not been fully redeemed, nor had her document of emancipation been granted her, there shall be an investigation. They shall not be put to death, because she had not been completely freed. He shall bring his guilt offering to the Lord to the entrance of the tent of meeting, a guilt offering ram. And the Kohen shall effect atonement for him with the guilt offering ram before the Lord for the sin he had committed, and he shall be forgiven for the sin that he had committed. When you come to the land and you plant any food tree, you shall surely block its fruit from utilization. It shall be blocked from utilization for 3 years, not to be eaten. And in the 4th year all its fruit shall be holy, a praise to the Lord. And in the 5th year you may eat its fruit. Do this in order to increase its produce for you. I am the Lord your God. You shall not eat over the blood. You shall not act on the basis of omens or lucky hours. You shall not round off the corners of your head, and you shall not destroy the edge of your beard. You shall not make cuts in your flesh for a person who died. You shall not etch a tattoo on yourselves. I am the Lord. You shall not defile your daughter by making her a harlot, lest the land fall into harlotry and the land be filled with indecency. You shall observe my Shabbat and revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. You shall not turn to the sorcery of Ov or Yidoni. You shall not seek these and thereby defile yourselves through them. I am the Lord your God. You shall rise before a venerable person, and you shall respect the elderly, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not taunt him. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be as a native from amongst you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You shall not commit a perversion of justice with measures, weights, or liquid measures. You shall have true scales, true weights, a true ephah, and a true hin. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe all my statutes and all my ordinances and fulfill them. I am the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, And to the children of Israel you shall say, Any man of the children of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn amongst Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech, shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall pelt him with stones. And I will set my attention upon that man, and I will cut him off from amidst his people, because he gave of his offspring to Molech, in order to defile my holy ones and to profane my holy name. But if the people of the land ignore that man when he gives of his offspring to Molech, not putting him to death, I will set my attention upon that man and upon his family, and I will cut him off, and all who stray after him to stray after Molech from amidst their people. And the person who turns to Ov or Yidoni to stray after them, I will set my attention upon that person, and I will cut him off from amidst his people. You shall sanctify yourselves and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. And you shall observe my statutes and fulfill them. I am the Lord who sanctifies you. For any man who curses his far or his more shall be put to death. He has cursed his far or his more, his blood is upon himself. And a man who commits adultery with another man's wife, committing adultery with the wife of his fellow, the adulterer and the adulteress, shall surely be put to death. And a man who lies with his far's wife has uncovered his far's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have committed a depravity. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who lies with a male as one would with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who takes a woman and her more, it is evil counsel. They shall burn him and them in fire, and there shall be no evil counsel in your midst. And a man who lies with an animal shall surely be put to death, and you shall kill the animal. And a woman who comes close to any animal so that it will mate with her, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon themselves. And a man who takes his sister, whether his far's daughter or his more's daughter, and he sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgraceful act, and they shall be cut off from before the eyes of the members of their people. He uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his sin. And a man who lies with a woman who has a flow, and he uncovers her nakedness, he has bared her fountain, and she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from the midst of their people. And you shall not uncover the nakedness of your more sister or your far sister, for he would be bearing his close relative. They shall bear their sin. And a man who lies with his aunt, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their transgression. They shall die childless. And a man who takes his brother's wife, it is a repulsive act. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. And you shall observe all my statutes and all my ordinances and fulfill them. Then the land to which I am bringing you to dwell therein will not vomit you out. You shall not follow the practices of the nation that I am sending away from before you, for they committed all these sins, and I was disgusted with them. So I said to you, you shall possess their land, and I shall give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has distinguished you from the peoples. And you shall distinguish between clean animals and unclean ones, and between unclean birds and clean ones. Thus shall you not make yourselves disgusting through unclean animals and birds and any creature which crawls on the earth, that I have distinguished for you to render unclean. And you shall be holy to me, for I the Lord am holy, and I have distinguished you from the peoples to be mine. And a man or a woman who has the sorcery of Ov or Yidoni shall surely be put to death. They shall pelt them with stones. Their blood is upon themselves. Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yogehe, numero 12. Arjuna said, those devotees who ever steadfast worship you after this fashion, and those others who worship the imperishable and unmanifest, which of these have greater knowledge of yoga? Sri Krishna said, those who have fixed their minds on me, and whoever steadfast and endowed with supreme faith worship me, them do I hold to be perfect in yoga. And those who have completely controlled their senses and are of even mind under all conditions, and thus worship the imperishable, the ineffable, the unmanifest, the omnipresent, the incomprehensible, the immutable, the unchanging, the eternal, they, devoted to the welfare of all beings, attain me alone and none else. The task of those whose minds are set on the unmanifest is further difficult, for the ideal of the unmanifest is hard to obtain for those who are embodied. But those who consecrate all their actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, and who worship me, meditating on me with single-minded concentration. To them whose minds are thus absorbed in me, verily I become ere long, O Parta, the Savior from the death-fraught ocean of the world. Fix your mind on me alone, rest your thought on me alone, and in me alone you will live hereafter. Of this there is no doubt. If you are unable to fix your mind on me, O Dhananjaya, then seek to reach me by the yoga of constant practice. If you are incapable of constant practice, then devote yourself to me service. For even by rendering service to me, you will attain perfection. If you are unable to do even this, then be self-controlled, surrender the fruit of all action, and take refuge in me. Knowledge is better than practice, and meditation is better than knowledge. Renunciation of the fruit of action is better than meditation. Peace immediately follows such renunciation. He who never hates any being and is friendly and compassionate to all, who is free from the feelings of I and mine, and even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing, ever content, and steady in contemplation, who is self-controlled and possessed of firm conviction, and who has consecrated his mind and understanding to me. Dear to me is the one who is thus devoted to me. He by whom the world is not afflicted, and whom the world cannot afflict. He who is free from joy and anger, free from fear and anxiety. He is dear to me. He who is free from dependence, who is pure and prompt, unconcerned and untroubled, and who has renounced all undertakings, dear to me is the man who is thus devoted to me. He who rejoices not and hates not, who grieves not and desires not, who has renounced both benevolent and evil, and is full of devotion, he is dear to me. He who is alike to foe and friend, unaltered in honor and dishonor, who is the same in cold and heat, in pleasure and pain, who is free from attachment, who is unchanged by honor and blame, who is silent, content, and with whatever he has, homeless, firm of mind, and full of devotion, that man is dear to me. Exceedingly dear to me are they who regard me as the supreme goal, and, endowed with faith and devotion, follow this eternal Dharma. Digha Mahagovinda Sutta, número 19. Thus have I heard. The Exalted One was once staying at Rajagaha on Vulture Peak Hill. Now when the night was distantly spent, 5 crests of the Gandharva fairies, beautiful to see, irradiating the whole of Vulture Peak, came into the presence of the Exalted One, and saluted him and stood on one side. So standing, 5 crests of the Gandharva addressed the Exalted One and said, The things, Master, that I have seen, the things I have noted, when in the presence of the celestial beings in the heaven of the 3 and 30, I would tell to the Exalted One. Tell thou me, 5 crest, said the Exalted One. In days gone by, Master, in days long gone by, on the 15th, the holy day, at the feast of the invitations, on the night of full moon, all the celestial beings in the heaven of the 33 were assembled, sitting in their hall of benevolent council. And a vast celestial company was seated round about, and at the 4 quarters of the firmament sat the 4 great kings. There was Datarata, king of the east, seated facing the west, presiding over his host. Virulaka, king of the south, seated facing the north, presiding over his host. Virupaka, king of the west, seated facing the east, presiding over his host. And Vesava, king of the north, seated facing the south, presiding over his host. Whenever, Master, all the celestial beings in the heaven of the 33 are assembled and seated in their hall of benevolent council, with the vast celestial company seated around them, and with the 4 great kings at the 4 quarters of the firmament, this is the order of the seats of the 4. After that come our seats. And those celestial beings, Master, who had been recently reborn in the hosts of the 3 and 30, because they had lived the higher life under the Exalted One, they outshone the other celestial beings in appearance and in glory. Thereat, verily, Master, the 3 and 30 celestial beings were glad and of benevolent cheer, were filled with joy and happiness, saying, Verily, sirs, the celestial hosts are waxing, the hosts of the Titans are waning. Then Saka, master ruler of the celestial beings, when he saw the satisfaction felt by the 33 celestial beings, expressed his approval in these verses. The 33, verily, both celestial beings and master, rejoice, Tathagata they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. Whereas they see these celestial beings new risen, beautiful and bright, who erst the holy life had lived under the happy one, the mighty sages hearers, who had won to higher truth. Come hither, and in glory all the other celestial beings outshine. This they behold right gladly, both master and 33 Tathagata they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. Then Saka, master, perceiving the satisfaction of the 33 celestial beings, addressed them thus. Is it your wish, gentlemen, to hear 8 truthful items in honor of that exalted one? It is our wish, sir, to hear them. Then Saka, master, ruler of the celestial beings, uttered before the 33 celestial beings these 8 truthful items in honor of the exalted one. Now what think ye, my masters, celestial beings 3 and 30, inasmuch as the exalted one has so wrought for the benevolence of the many, for the happiness of the many, for the advantage, the benefit, happiness of celestial beings and men, out of compassion for the world, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only the exalted one. Inasmuch again as the Dharma has been proclaimed by that exalted one, a Dharma for the life that now is, a Dharma not mere temporary gain, a Dharma of welcome and of guidance, to be comprehended by the wise, each in his own heart. A preacher of such a Dharma, so leading us on, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only the exalted one. This is the benevolence, this is benevolent, that is bad. Well has this been revealed by that exalted one. Well has he revealed that this is wrong and that is right, that this is to be followed, that to be avoided, that this is base and that noble, that this is of the light and this of the dark. Such a revelation of the nature of things, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only the exalted one. Well revealed again to his disciples by that exalted one is the way leading to nirvana. They run one into the other, nirvana and the way. Even as the waters of the Ganges and the Jumna now one into the other, and go on together united, so it is with that well-revealed way leading to nirvana. They run one into the other, nirvana and the way. A revealer of such a way leading to nirvana, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only that exalted one. Comrades, too, has this exalted one gotten, both students only, traveling along the way, and arahats, who have lived the life. Them does he not send away, but dwells in fellowship with them whose hearts are set on one object. A teacher so dwelling of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only that exalted one. Well established are the gifts made to that blessed one. Widely established is his fame, so much so that the nobles, methinks, continue well disposed towards him. Notwithstanding, that exalted one takes sustenance with a heart unintoxicated by pride. One so living, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only that exalted one. The acts again of that exalted one conform to his speech conforms to his acts. One who has so carried out hereby the greater and lesser matters of the law, a teacher of this kind, of the Dharma, of this kind, a teacher of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only that exalted one. Crossed too by that exalted one has been the sea of doubt. Gone by for him is all question of the how and why. Accomplished for him is every purpose with respect to his high resolve and the ancient rule of right. A teacher who has attained thus distantly of this kind, of this character, we find not, whether we survey the past or whether we survey the present, save only that exalted one. These 8 true honors, master, of the exalted one, did Saka, ruler of the celestial beings, utter before the 33 celestial beings. Hereat the 33 celestial beings were even further abundantly pleased, gladdened and filled with joy and happiness over the things they had heard. Then certain celestial beings, master, spoke thus: O, sir, if only 4 supreme Buddhas might arise in the world and teach the Dharma, even as the exalted one, that would make for the welfare of the many, for the happiness of the many, for compassion to the world, for the benevolence and the gain and the weal of angels, of celestial beings and men. And certain other celestial beings spoke thus: It would suffice her if there arose 3 supreme Buddhas in the world. And certain other celestial beings spoke thus: It would suffice her if 2 supreme Buddhas arose in the world, for the benefit and the gain and the weal of celestial beings and men. Then answered Saka, ruler of the celestial beings, to the 33, Nowhere, gentlemen, and at no time is it possible that in one and the same world system 2 Arahat Buddhas supreme should arise together, neither before nor after the other. This can in no wise be. Ah, gentlemen, would that this blessed one might yet live for long years to come, free from disease and free from suffering. That would make for the welfare of the many, for the happiness of the many, for loving compassion to the universe, for the benefit and the gain and the weal of celestial beings and men. Then, Master, the 33 celestial beings, having thus deliberated and taken counsel together concerning the matter for which they were assembled and seated in the hall of benevolent counsel, with respect to that matter, the 4 kings were receivers of the spoken word, the 4 great kings were receivers of the admonition given, remaining the while in their places, not retiring. Taking the uttered word and speech, the kings stood there, serene and calm, each in his place. Then, Master, from out of the north came forth a splendid light, and a radiance shone around, surpassing the divine glory of the celestial beings. Then did Saka, ruler of the celestial beings, say to the dwellers in the heaven of the 33, According, gentlemen, to the signs now seen, the light that ariseth, the radiance that appeareth, will Brahma now be made manifest. For this is the herald sign of the manifestation of Brahma, when the light ariseth and the glory shineth. Even by yonder signs great Brahma draweth nigh. For this is Brahma's sign, this glorious splendor vast. Then, Master, the 33 celestial beings sat down again in their own places, saying, We will ascertain what shall be the result of this radiance. When we have realized it, when we have understood it, we will go to meet him. The 4 kings also sat down in their places, saying the same. And when they heard that the 33 celestial beings were all agreed, saying, We will ascertain what will be the result of this radiance. When we have verified it, we will go to meet him. When, Master, Brahma, Sanam Kumara, appears before the 33 celestial beings, he manifests himself as an individual of relatively gross substance, which he has specially created. For Brahma's usual appearance is not sufficiently materialized for the scope of the sight of the 33 celestial beings. And, Master, when Brahma, Sanam Kumara, is manifested before these celestial beings, he outshines the other celestial beings in his appearance and his glory. Just as a figure made of gold outshines the human frame, so when Brahma, Sanam Kumara, is manifested before the 33 celestial beings, does he outshine the other celestial beings in his appearance and his glory. And when Master Brahma, Sanam Kumara, is manifested before the 33 celestial beings, not one celestial being in that assembly salutes him or rises up or invites him to be seated. They all sit in silence with folded hands and crossed legs, each thinking of whichever celestial being Brahma, Sanam Kumara, now desires anything. He will sit himself on that celestial being's divan, and that celestial being by whom he does so seat himself is filled with a sublime satisfaction, a sublime happiness, even as a Kshatriya king that is just anointed and crowned is filled with a sublime satisfaction, a sublime happiness. Then, Master, Brahma, Sanam Kumara, perceiving how gratified were those 33 celestial beings, uttered his approval whilst invisible in these verses. The 33, verily both celestial beings and Master, rejoice, Tathagata they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. Whereas they see these celestial beings new risen, beautiful and bright, who erst the holy life had lived under the happy one, the mighty sage's hearers, who had won the higher truth, come hither, and in glory all the other celestial beings outshine. This they behold right gladly, both Master and 33, Tathagata they honor, and the cosmic law sublime. This, Master, was the substance of Brahma, the eternal youth's speech, and he spoke it with a voice of eightfold quality, a voice that was fluent, intelligible, sweet and audible, sustained and distinct, deep and resonant. And whereas, Master, he made himself audible to that assembly by his voice, the sound thereof did not penetrate beyond the assembly. He whose voice has these 8 qualities is said to have a Brahma voice. Then, Master, to Brahma, the eternal youth, the 33 celestial beings spoke thus. 'Tis well, O Brahma, we do rejoice at this that we have noted. Further, Saka, ruler of the celestial beings, hath rehearsed to us 8 truthful honors of that exalted one, and these 2 we have marked and do rejoice thereat. Then Master Brahma, the eternal youth, spoke thus to Saka, ruler of the celestial beings. 'Tis well, O ruler of the celestial beings, we too would hear the 8 truthful honors of that exalted one. So be it, O great Brahma, replied Saka. And thereupon, beginning, now what thinketh my master, the great Brahma? He uttered once further those 8 truthful honors of the blessed one. Hereat Master Brahma, the eternal youth, was pleased and gladdened, and was filled with joy and happiness when he had heard those honors. And so Master Brahma, the eternal youth, materializing himself and becoming in appearance like the youth 5 crests, manifested himself to the 33 celestial beings, and rising up into the air, he sat down cross-legged in the sky. Just, Master, as easily as a strong man might sit down cross-legged on a well-spread divan or a smooth portion of ground, even so did Brahma, the eternal youth, rising up into the air, sit down cross-legged into the sky. And he addressed the 33 celestial beings thus: Now what think ye, my master, celestial beings, 30 and 3? For how long hath the blessed one been of great wisdom? Once upon a time there was a king named Disampati, and King Disampati's minister was a Brahmin named Govinda the steward. And King Disampati had a son named Renu, and Govinda had a son named Jotipala. And Prince Renu and the young Jotipala and 6 other young nobles, these 8 were great friends. Now in the course of years Govinda died, and King Disampati grieved for him, saying, Alas, just when we had devolved all our duties on Govinda the Brahmin, and were surrounded by and giving ourselves up to the pleasures of sense, Govinda has died. Then said Prince Renu to the king, Grieve not, sire, so excessively for Govinda the Brahmin. Govinda has a son, young Jotipala, who is wiser than his far was, better able to see what is beneficial than his far. Let Jotipala administer all such affairs as were entrusted to his far. I do, sire. Then King Disampati summoned a man and said, Come, you benevolent man, go to Master Jotipala and say to him, May benevolent fortune attend the Honorable Jotipala. King Disampati calls for the Honorable Jotipala. King Disampati would like to see the Honorable Jotipala. So be it, sire, responded the man, and going to Jotipala he repeated the message. Very well, sir, responded Jotipala, and went to wait upon the king. And when he had come into the king's presence, he exchanged with the king the greetings and compliments of politeness and courtesy, and sat down on one side. Then said King Disampati to Jotipala, We would have the honorable youth Jotipala administer for us. Let him not refuse to do so. I will set him in his far's place and appoint him to the stewardship. So be it, sire, replied Jotipala in assent. So King Disampati appointed Jotipala as his steward and set him in his far's place. And thus appointed and installed, whatever matters his far had administered, those did Jotipala administer. And whatever his far had not administered, those matters did he too not administer. And whatever works his far had accomplished, and no others, even such works, and no others did he too accomplish. Of him men said, The Brahmin is verily a steward. A great steward is verily this Brahmin. And on this wise Jotipala came to be called the High Steward. Now it came to pass that the great steward went to those 6 nobles and said to them, Disampati the king is old and wasted with age, full of years, and arrived at the term of life. Who indeed can answer for the survival of the living? When the king dies, it will behoove the kingmakers to anoint Renu the prince as king. I suggest, gentlemen, that you wait on Prince Renu and say to him thus, We are the dear, beloved, and congenial friends of our master Renu. We are happy when our master is happy, unhappy when he is unhappy. Disampati, our master king, is old and wasted with age, full of years, and arrived at the term of life. Who indeed can answer for the living? When the king dies, it will behoove the kingmakers to anoint our master Renu king. If our master Renu should gain the sovereignty, let him divide it with us. So be it, responded the 6 nobles, and waiting upon Prince Renu, they repeated these words to him. Why, sirs, who besides myself ought to prosper in this realm, if it be not you? If I, sirs, shall gain the sovereignty, I will divide it with you. And it came to pass in course of time that King Disampati died, and after his death the kingmakers anointed Renu his son king, and he, when he was made king, lived surrounded by and given up to the pleasures of sense. Then the high steward went to those 6 nobles and said thus, Desampati gentleman is dead, and my master Renu lives surrounded by and given up to the pleasures of sense. Well, gentlemen, who can say? The pleasures of sense are intoxicating. I would suggest, gentlemen, that you wait on King Renu and say to him, King Desampati, my master is dead. My master Renu is anointed king. Does my master remember his promise? Very well, sir, responded the 6 nobles, and going into Renu's presence, they said, King Desampati, sire, is dead, and my master Renu is anointed king. Does my master remember his promise? Who, sire, is able, if it be not the great steward, the Brahmin? Then King Renu sent a man to the great steward, saying, Come, my benevolent fellow, go to the great steward, the Brahmin, and say, The king has sent for you, my master. And the great steward was told and obeyed, and coming into the king's presence, exchanged with him the greetings and compliments of politeness and courtesy, and sat down on one side. Then said the king to him, Will you go, my master steward, and so divide this great earth wide on the north and on the south into 7 equal portions? All. Very well, sire, responded the high steward, and this he did. And King Renu's country held the central position, and it is said, Dantapura of the Kalingas, and Potana for the Asakas, Mahisati for the Avantis, and Roruka in the Sovira land, Mitila of the Vidahas, and then Kampa amongst the Angas, lastly Benares in the Kasi realm. All these did the great steward wisely plan. Then were those 6 nobles well pleased, each with his allotted gain, and at the success of his plan. For they said, What we wished for, what we desired, what we intended, what we aimed at, lo, that is what we have gotten. And the 7 kings were named, Satabu and Brahmadatta Vasabu, with Bharata, Kenu, and 2 Dattaratas. These are the 7 Bharatas. Now those 6 nobles came to the high steward and said to him, Just as the honorable steward was dear, beloved, and congenial as companion to Renu the king, so has he been also to us a companion, dear, beloved, and congenial. We would that the honorable steward administer our affairs. We trust he will not refuse to do so. Very well, sirs, replied the great steward. And so he instructed those 7 anointed kings in government, and he taught the mantras to 7 eminent and wealthy Brahmins, and to 700 young graduates. Now later on, the excellent reputation of the Brahmin, the high steward, was noised abroad after this fashion. With his own eyes, the high steward sees Brahma. Face to face does the high steward commune with Brahma, converse and take counsel with Brahma. Then the high steward thought, This flattering rumor is noised abroad about me, that I both see Brahma and hold converse with Brahma. Now I neither see Brahma, nor commune with Brahma, nor converse or take counsel with Brahma. But I have heard aged and venerable Brahmins, teachers and pupils say, He who remains in meditation in the 4 months of the rains and practices the ecstasy of pity, he sees Brahma, communes, converses, takes counsel with Brahma. What if I now were to cultivate that discipline? So the high steward waited on King Renu, and telling him of the reputation imputed to himself and of his wish to practice seclusion, added, I wish her to meditate during the 4 months of the rains and to practice the ecstasy of pity. No one is to come near me save someone who will bring me my meals. Do, honorable steward, whatever seems to you fit. And the high steward went round to each of the 6 nobles and told them the same, and took his leave of them also. Then he went to those 7 eminent and wealthy Brahmins, and to the 700 graduates, and telling them too of the rumors of his wish to practice seclusion, said, Wherefore, sirs, according as you have heard the mantras and have committed them to memory, continue to rehearse them in full and teach them to each other. I, sirs, wish to meditate during the 4 months of the rains and to practice the ecstasy of pity. No one is to come near me save someone who shall bring me my meals. Do, honorable steward, whatever seems to you fit. Next the high steward went to his 40 wives, who were all on an equality, and told them too of the rumors and of his wish to practice ecstasy and seclusion, and they replied like the others. Then the high steward had a new rest house built eastward of the city, and there for the 4 months of the rains he meditated, wrapped in the ecstasy of pity. Nor did anyone have access to him save one who brought him his meals. But when the 4 rainy months were over, then verily came disappointment and anguish over him, as he thought, Here have I heard aged and venerable Brahmins, teachers, and their pupils say, He who remains in meditation the 4 months of the rains and practices the ecstasy of pity, he sees Brahma, communes, converses, and takes counsel with Brahma. But I see not Brahma. I commune not, nor converse, nor take counsel with Brahma. Then Brahma, the eternal youth, when in his mind he knew the thoughts of the high steward's mind, vanished from his heaven, and like a strong man shooting his arm out or drawing back his outstretched arm, appeared before the high steward. Then verily came fear, then came trembling upon the high steward, then did the hair of his flesh stand up, when he saw this thing that had never been seen before. And he, full of fear and dread, with stiffening hair, addressed Brahma, the eternal youth, in these verses. O vision fair, O glorious and divine, who art thou, Master? Knowing thee not, we ask that we may know. To a Brahma blessed, let seat and water for the feet, and sweet cooked cakes and drink be brought. We ask what gift the Master would take. Would he himself decide the form for us, whereby we take thy gift and now, whether it be for the benevolence and gain in this thy present life, or for the weal in that which it shall be. Thou hast leave. Come, ask, Govinda, whatsoever thou fain wouldst have. Then the high steward thought, leave is given me by Brahma, the eternal youth. What now shall I ask of him? Some benevolent thing for this life, or a future benefit? Then it occurred to him, I am an expert regarding what is beneficial for this life. Even others consult me about that. What now if I were to ask Brahma, the eternal youth, for something of advantage in a life to come? And he addressed the celestial being in these verses. I ask the Brahma, the eternal youth, him past all doubt, I, doubting, ask about the things that others would fain know about, wherein proficient, in what method trained, can living beings reach the eternal life world of Brahman. He amongst men, O Brahman, who eschews all claims of me and mine, he in whom thought rises in lonely calm, in pity wrapped, loathing all foul things, dwelling in chastity, herein proficient, in such matters trained, living being can reach the eternal heaven of Brahman. What the Master saith touching eschewing all claims of me and mine, I understand. It is to renounce all property, whether it be small or large, and to renounce all family life, whether the circle of one's kin be small or large, and with hair and beard cut off and yellow robes donned, to go forth from the home into the homeless life. Thus do I understand this. What the Master saith touching thought rising in lonely calm, I understand. It is when one chooses a solitary abode, the forest, or at the foot of a tree or a mountain, brae, a grotto, a rock cavern, a cemetery, or a heap of grass out in the open field. Thus do I understand this. What the Master saith touching in pity wrapped, I understand. It is when one continues to pervade one quarter of the horizon with a heart charged with pity, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere does one continue to pervade with a heart charged with pity, distantly reaching, expanded, infinite, free from wrath and ill will. Thus do I understand this. Only in what he saith touching loathing the foul do I not understand thee, Master. What meanest thou by foul orders amongst men, O Brahma? Here I understand thee not. Tell what these signify, who knowest all, when cloaked and clogged by what is man thus foul, hell doomed and shut off from the heaven of Brahm. Anger and lies, deceit and treachery, selfishness, self-conceit and jealousy, greed, doubt, and lifting hands against fellow men, lusting in hate, dullness, and pride of life. When yoked with these, man is of odor foul, hell doomed and shut out from the heaven of Brahma. As I understand the word of the Master concerning these foul orders, they cannot easily be suppressed if one live in the world. I will therefore go forth from the home into the life of the homeless state. Do, Master Steward, whatever seems to you fit. Then the high steward waited on King Renu and said to him, Will my master now seek another minister who will administer my master's affairs? I wish to leave the world for the homeless life. I am going forth in accordance with the word of Brahma, which I have heard concerning foul odors. These cannot be easily suppressed when one is living in the world. King Renu, Master, o'er the land, I here declare, do thou thyself take thought for this thy realm. I care no longer for my ministry. If for thy pleasures aught there like lacketh, yet I'll make it benevolent. If any injure thee, them I'll restrain. War master and land master, thou art my far steward. Lo, I am thy son. Abide with us. Govinda, leave us not. Not lack I for my pleasures, nor is there one who doth injure me. But I have heard voices unearthly, henceforth home holds me not. What like is this unearthly? What did he say to thee, that having heard thou will straightway forsake our house and us and all the world? Ere I had passed through this retreat, my care was for due altar rites. The sacred fire was kindled, strewn about with kusha grass. But lo, Brahma I saw from Brahma's heaven, eternal angel. I asked, he made reply, I heard. And now irksome is home to me. Lo, I believe the words that thou hast said, O Govinda, having heard the unearthly voice. How could it be thou couldst act otherwise? Thee will we follow after. Be our guide, our teacher. So, like gem of purest ray, pure purged of all dross, translucent without flaw, as pure as that we'll walk according to thy word. If the honorable steward goes forth from the home into the homeless, I too will do the like. For whither thou goest, I will go. Then the high steward, the Brahmin, waited upon the 6 nobles and said to them, Will my masters now seek another minister who will administer my master's affairs? I wish to leave the world for the homeless life. I am going forth in accordance with the word of Brahma, which I have heard concerning foul odors. These cannot be easily suppressed when one is living in the world. Then the 6 nobles went aside together and thus deliberated. These Brahmin folk are greedy for money. What if we were to gain him over through money? And coming to the high steward, they said, There is abundance of property, sir, in these 7 kingdoms. Wherefore, sir, take of it as much as seems beneficial to you. Enough, sirs, I have already abundant possessions, thanks to the action of my masters. It is that luxury that I am now relinquishing and leaving the world for the homeless life, even as I have told you. Then the 6 nobles went aside together and thus deliberated. These Brahmin folk are greedy about women. What if we were to gain him over through women? And coming to the high steward, said, There is, sir, in those 7 kingdoms abundance of women. Wherefore, sir, conduct away with you as many as you want. Enough, sirs, I have already these 40 wives, equal in rank. All of them I am forsaking and leaving the world for the homeless life, even as I have told you. If the honorable steward goes forth from the home into the homeless life, we will do the same. We will do the like. Whither thou goest, we will go. If ye would put off fleshy lusts that worldling's heart doth coerce, stir ye the will, wax strong, firm in the power of patience. This is the way that's straight, the way unto the end, the righteous path that benevolent men guard to birth in Brahma's heaven. Wherefore, my master steward, wait yet 7 years, and when they are over, we too will go forth from the world into the homeless life. Whither thou goest, we will go. Too long, my masters, are 7 years. I cannot wait for my masters 7 years. For who can answer for the living? We must go towards the future. We must learn by wisdom. We must do benevolence. We must walk in righteousness. For there is no escaping death for all that's born. Now I am going forth in accordance with the word of Brahma, which I have heard concerning foul odors. They cannot be easily suppressed when one is living in the world. Well then, Master Steward, wait for us 6 years, or 5 years, or wait 5 years, or 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. When a year has gone by, we too will leave the world for the homeless state. Whither thou goest, we will go. Too long, my masters, is 1 year. I cannot wait for my masters 1 year, for who can answer for the living? We must go towards the future. We must learn by wisdom. We must do benevolence. We must walk in righteousness, for there is no escaping death for all that's born. Now I am going forth in accordance with the word of Brahma, which I have heard concerning the foul odors. They cannot easily be suppressed when one is living in the world. Well then, Master Steward, wait for us 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 month, half a month, 7 days, till we have developed our kingdoms on to our brothers and sons and brothers. When 7 days are over, we will leave the world for the homeless state. Whither thou goest, we will go 7 days. My master is not a long time. We will wait my master for 7 days. Then the high steward, the Brahmin, came to those 7 eminent and wealthy Brahmins and to those 700 graduates and said, Will ye now seek another teacher, sirs, who will by repetition teach you the mystic verses? I wish to leave the world for the homeless state, for the homeless life. I am going forth in accordance with the word of Brahma, which I have heard concerning foul odors. These cannot easily be suppressed when one is living in the world. Let the honorable steward not leave the world for the homeless life. Leaving the world means little power and little gain. To be a Brahmin brings great power and great gain. Speak not so, gentlemen, or of leaving the world or of being a Brahmin. For who, for that matter, has greater power or wealth than I? I, sirs, have been hitherto as a king of kings, as Brahma to Brahmins, as a deity to householders. And all this I put away in leaving the world in accordance with the word of Brahma. If the master steward leaves the world for the homeless state, we too will do the like. Whither thou goest, we will go. Then the high steward, the Brahmin, went to his 40 wives, all on an equality, and said, Will each of you, ladies who may wish to do so, go back to her own family and seek another husband? I wish ladies to leave the world for the homeless life in accordance with the word of Brahma. And so the high steward, the Brahmin, when those 7 days were past, let his hair and beard be cut off, donned the yellow robes, and went forth from his home into the homeless state. And he, having so acted, the 7 kings also anointed Kshatriyas, as well as the 7 eminent and wealthy Brahmins, and the 700 graduates, the 40 wives, all on an equality, several thousand nobles, several thousand Brahmins, several thousand commoners, and several young women and women from women's quarters, let their hair be cut, donned the yellow robes, and went forth from their homes into the homeless state. And so, escorted by this progeny, the high steward, the Brahmin, went a-wandering through the villages, towns, and cities. And whether he arrived at village or town or city, there he came as a king to kings, as Brahma to Brahmins, as a deity to commoners. And in those days, when anyone sneezed or slipped, they called out, Glory be to the high steward, the Brahmin. Glory be to the minister of 7. Now the high steward, the Brahmin, continued to pervade each of the 4 quarters of the horizon with a heart charged with love, with pity, with sympathy and joy, with equanimity. And so the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, did he continue to pervade with heart charged with equanimity, distant reaching, expanded, infinite, free from wrath and ill will. And he taught to his disciples the way to union with the world of Brahma. Now all they who at the time had been the high steward's disciples, and in all points who wholly understood his teachings, were after their death reborn into the blissful world of Brahma. They who had not in all points wholly understood his teaching were after their death reborn into the company of either the celestial beings who dispose of joys pervade with from without, or of the celestial beings of the heaven of boundless delight, or of the celestial beings of the heavens of bliss, or of the Yama celestial beings, or of the 33 celestial beings, or the celestial beings who are the 4 kings of the horizon. Even they who accomplish the lowest realm of all attain to the realm of the Gandharva fairies. Thus of all those clansmen there was not one whose renunciation proved vain or barren. In each way it bore fruit and development. Does the exalted one remember? I do remember, Five Crest. I was the high steward of those days. I taught my disciples the way to communion with the Brahman world. But, Five Crest, that religious life did not conduce to detachment, to passionlessness, to cessation of craving, to peace, to understanding, to insight of the higher stages of the path, to nirvana, but only to rebirth in the Brahma world. On the other hand, my religious system, Five Crest, conduces wholly and solely to detachment, to passionlessness, to cessation of craving, to peace, to understanding, to insight of the higher stages of the path, to nirvana. And that is the Aryan Eightfold Path, to wit, right views, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right thought, right mindfulness, right rapture. Those are my disciples, those of my disciples, five crest, who in all points wholly understand my teaching, they from the destruction of the deadly taints have by and for themselves understood, realized and attained to, even in this life, freedom from taint, liberty of heart, liberty of intellect. Those who do not in all points wholly understand my teaching, some of them in that they have broken away the five fetters belonging to the hither side, are reborn without parents, where they will utterly pass away, being no further liable to return to this world. And some of them in that they have broken away three other fetters, and have worn down passion and hate and dullness, become once returners, who after once returning to this world shall make an end of ill. And some of them again in that they have broken away those three fetters, become stream attainers, not liable to be reborn in any state of woe, but assured of attaining to the insight. And so five crests of all, even all those persons, there is not one whose renunciation is vain or barren. In each case it will have brought fruit and development. Thus spoke the Exalted One, and five crests of the Gandharva fairies was pleased at the word of the Exalted One, and in delight and gladness he saluted the Exalted One, and with the salutation of the right side he vanished from that place. Gospels, Luke 15:16. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be further rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set out for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But whilst he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has turned him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I have been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, You are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Jesus told his disciples, "There was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, 'What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer.' The manager said to himself, 'What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses.' So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' 900 gallons of olive oil,' he replied. The manager told him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, 'And how much do you owe?' 1,000 bushels of wheat,' he replied. He told him, 'Take your bill and make it 800. The master commanded the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly, for the people of this world are further shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are people of the light. I tell you, utilize worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?' And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." The Pharisees who loved money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts. What people value highly is detestable in God's sight." The law and the prophets were proclaimed until John. Since that time, the benevolent news of the sovereignty of God is being preached, and everyone is forcing their way into it. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the least stroke of a pen to drop out of the law. Anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery, and a man who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried in Hades, where he was in torment. He looked up and saw Abraham distantly away, with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, "Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." But Abraham replied, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your benevolent things, whilst Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." He answered, "Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have brothers. For I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them so that they will not also come to this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moshe and the prophets. Let them listen to them." "No, for Abraham," he said, "but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent." He said to him, "If they do not listen to Moshe and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead." Quran, Surah Yasin, 36. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Yasin. By the Quran full of wisdom, thou art indeed one of the apostles, on a straight way. It is a revelation sent down by Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful, in order that thou mayest admonish the people whose fathers had received no admonition, and who therefore remain heedless of the signs of Allah. The word is proved true against the greater part of them, for they do not believe. We have put yokes around their necks right up to their chins, so that their heads are forced up and they cannot see. And we have put a bar in front of them and a bar behind them, and further we have covered them up so that they cannot see. The same is to them whether thou admonish them or thou do not admonish them, they will not believe. Thou canst but admonish such a one as follows the message and fears the Lord most gracious, unseen. Give such a one therefore benevolent tidings of forgiveness and a reward most generous. Verily we shall give life to the dead, and we record that which they send before and that which they leave behind, and of all things have we taken account in a clear book of evidence. Set forth to them by way of a parable the story of the companions of the city. Behold, there came apostles to it. When we first sent to them 2 apostles, they rejected them, but we strengthened them with a third, and they said, Truly we have been sent on a mission to you. The people said, Ye are only men like ourselves, and Allah most gracious sends no sort of revelation, ye do nothing but lie. They said, Our Lord doth know that we have been sent on a mission to you, and our duty is only to proclaim the clear message. The people said, For us we augur an evil omen from you. If ye desist not, we will certainly stone you, and a grievous penalty indeed will be inflicted on you by us. They said, Your evil omens are with yourselves. Deem ye this an evil omen, if ye are admonished? Nay, but ye are a people transgressing all bounds. Then there came running from the furthest part of the city a man, saying, O my people, obey the apostles. Obey those who ask no reward of you for themselves, and who have themselves received guidance. It would not be reasonable in me if I did not serve Allah, who created me, and to whom ye shall all be brought back. Shall I take other deities besides Allah? If Allah most gracious should intend some adversity for me, of no utilization whatever will be their intercession for me, nor can they deliver me. I would indeed, if I were to do so, be in manifest error. For me, I have faith in the Lord of you all. Listen to me then. It was said, Enter thou the garden. He said, Ah me, would that my people knew what I know. For that my Lord has granted me forgiveness, and has enrolled me amongst those held in honor. And we sent not down against his people after him any hosts from heaven, nor was it needful for us so to do. It was no further than a single mighty blast, and behold, they were like ashes, quenched and silent. Ah, alas for my servants, there comes not an apostle to them, but they mock him. See they not how many generations before them we destroyed? Not to them will they return, but each one of them all will be brought before us for judgment. A sign for them is the earth that is dead. We do give it life, and produce grain therefrom, of which ye do eat, and we produce therein orchards with date palms and vines, and we cause springs to gush forth therein, that they may enjoy the fruits of this artistry. It was not their hands that made this. Will they not then give thanks? Glory to Allah, who created and pairs all things that the earth produces, as well as their own humankind and other things of which they have no knowledge. And a sign for them is the night. We withdraw therefrom the day, and behold, they are plunged in darkness. And the soleil runs its course for a period determined for it. That is the decree of Allah, the exalted in might, the all-knowing. And the moon we have measured for her mansions to traverse till she returns like the old and withered lower part of a date stalk. It is not permitted to the soleil to catch up to the moon, nor can the night outstrip the day. Each just swims along its own orbit according to law. And a sign for them is that we bore their race through the flood in the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. If it were our will, we could drown them. Then would there be no helper to hear their cry, nor could they be delivered, except by way of mercy from us, and by way of world convenience to serve them for a time. When they are told, fear ye that which is before you and that which will be after you, in order that ye may receive mercy, they turn back. Not a sign comes to them from amongst the signs of their Lord, but they turn away therefrom. And when they are told, spend ye of the bounties with which Allah has provided you, the unbelievers say to those who believe, shall we then feed those whom, if Allah had so will, Allah would have fed? Allah, ye are in nothing but manifest error. Further, they say, when will this promise come to pass, if what ye say is true? They will not have to wait for aught but a single blast. It will seize them whilst they are yet disputing amongst themselves. No chance will they then have, by will, to dispose of their affairs, nor to return to their own people. The trumpet shall be sounded, when, behold, from the sepulchres men will rush forth to their Lord. They will say, ah, woe unto us! Who hath raised us up from our beds of repose? A voice will say, this is what Allah most gracious had promised, and true was the word of true was the word of the apostles. It will be no further than a single blast, when lo, they will all be brought up before us. Then on that day not a soul will be wronged in the least, and ye shall but be repaid the meeds of your past deeds. Verily the companions of the garden shall that day have joy in all that they do. They and their associates will be in groves of cool shade, reclining on thrones of dignity. Every fruit enjoyment will be there for them. They shall have whatever they call for. Salam, a word of salutation from a Lord most merciful. And O ye in sin, get ye apart this day. Did I not enjoin on you, O ye children of Adam, that ye should not worship Satan, for that he was to you an enemy avowed, and that ye should worship me, for that this was the straight way. But he did lead astray a great multitude of you. Did ye not then understand? This is the hell of which ye were repeatedly warned. Embrace ye the fire this day, for that ye persistently rejected truth. That day shall we set a seal on their mouths, but their hands will speak to us, and their feet bear witness to all that they did. If it had been our will, we could surely have blotted out their eyes. Then should they have run about groping for the path, but how could they have seen? And if it had been our will, we could have transformed them to remain in their places. Then should they have been unable to move about, nor could they have returned after error. If we grant long life to any, we cause him to be reversed in nature, will they not then understand? We have not instructed the Prophet in poetry, nor is it meet for him. This is no less than a message in a Quran, making things clear, that it may give admonition to any who are alive, and that the charge may be proved against those who reject truth. See they not that it is we who have created for them amongst the things which our hands have fashioned, cattle which are under their dominion, and that we have subjected them to their utilization. Of them some do carry them, and some they eat, and they have other benefits from them besides, and they get milk to drink Will they not then be grateful? Yet they take for worship deities other than Allah, hoping that they might be helped. They have not the power to help them, but they will be brought up before our judgment seat as a troop to be condemned. Let not their speech then grieve thee. Verily we know that what they hide as well as what they disclose. Doth not man see that it is we who created him from sperm? Yet behold, he stands forth as an open adversary. And he makes comparisons for us and forgets his own origin and creation. He says, who can give life to dry bones and decompose ones at that? Say, Allah will give them life who created them and created them for the first time. For Allah is well versed in every kind of creation. The same who produces for you fire out of the green tree, when behold ye kindle therewith your own fires. Is not Allah who created the heavens and the earth able to create the like thereof? Yea, indeed, for Allah is the creator supreme, of skill and knowledge infinite. Verily, when Allah intends a thing, Allah's command is, be, and it is. So glory to Allah, in whose hands is the dominion of all things, and to Allah will ye be all brought back. Dao Te Ching 13 a 18. Chapter 13. Favor and disgrace make one fearful. The greatest misfortune is the self. What does favor and disgrace make one fearful mean? Favor is high, disgrace is low. Having it makes one fearful. Losing it makes one fearful. This is favor and disgrace makes one fearful. What does the greatest misfortune is the self mean? The reason I have great misfortune is that I have the self. If I have no self, what misfortune do I have? So one who values the self as the world can be given the world. One who loves the self as the world can be entrusted with the world. Catorce. Look at it, it cannot be seen. It is called colorless. Listen to it, it cannot be heard. It is called noiseless. Reach for it, it cannot be held. It is called formless. These three cannot be completely unraveled, so they are combined into one. Above it not bright, below it not dark. Continuing endlessly cannot be named. It returns back into nothingness. Thus it is called the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. This is called enigmatic. Confront it, its front cannot be seen. Follow it, its back cannot be seen. Wield the Tao of the ancients, to manage the existence of today. One can know the ancient beginning. It is called the Tao axiom. Quince. The Tao masters of antiquity, subtle wonders through mystery, depths that cannot be discerned. Because one cannot discern them, therefore one is forced to describe the appearance. Hesitant like crossing a wintry river, cautious like fearing four neighbors, solemn like a guest, loose like ice about to melt, genuine like plain wood, open like a valley, opaque like muddy water. Who can be muddled yet desist, in stillness gradually become clear? Who can be serene yet persist, in motion gradually come alive? One who holds this Tao does not wish to be overfilled. Because one is not overfilled, therefore one can preserve and not create anew. XVI. Attain the ultimate emptiness. Hold on to the truest tranquility. The myriad things are all active. I therefore watch their return. Everything flourishes, each returns to its root. Returning to the root is called tranquility. Tranquility is called returning to one's nature. Returning to one's nature is called constancy. Knowing constancy is called clarity. Not knowing constancy, one recklessly causes trouble. Knowing constancy is acceptance. Acceptance is impartiality. Impartiality is sovereign. Sovereign is heaven. Heaven is Tao. Tao is eternal. The self is no further without danger. 17. The highest rulers, people do not know they have them. The next level, people love them and honor them. The next level, people fear them. The next level, people despise them. If the ruler's trust is insufficient, have no trust in them. Proceed calmly, valuing their words. Task accomplished, matter settled. The people all say, we did it naturally. The great Tao fades away. There is benevolence and justice. Intelligence comes forth. There is great deception. The 6 relations are not harmonious. There is filial piety and kind affection. The country is in confused chaos. There are loyal ministers. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim, Allahu Akbar. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificator nomen tuum, Vaheguru Satnam. Thou could thou, vehu thou. Ja. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kezanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'divrei Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivu mastu savajikatehem. Sabe sata b'avantu sukitata. Fagabia. Ubuntu. Shabbanam. Fekakam. Akwaba. Upendo na amani. Uminchika. Shishe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakan tokam. Talk on Kedoshim good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. Ata jamia yata afinami. Aho. Om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Alhamdulillah Rabbi Alameen. Alhamdulillah Rahmani Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificator nomen tuum, Vaheguru Satnam. Thou could thou, vehu thou. Ja. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi dachem min haaretz. Kyrie eleison. Sivu mastu savajikatehem. Sabe sata b'avantu sukitata. Fakabia. Ubuntu. Shabbanam. Frekako. Akwaba. Upendo na amani. Uminjekam. Shishe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakan tokam. Talk on Kedoshim good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Lord, may the God. Ata jama yata afinami. Aho. Om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Zaijian. Adios. Te chakaris. Asamudwo. Kele ofred. One love and peace.